Hi guys, it's Jim Bounds at Motorhome Rehab Ranch. I want to thank you for spending a few minutes with me. As the title said today, we're going to talk a little bit about transmissions. For that, if you're on YouTube, thank you very much. Thanks for scrolling through and stopping and watching me. But if you're interested about GMC motorhomes and stuff like that, shoot this QR code right here. And this will it'll take you to our Patreon site, which is a free video teaching platform, that there are a good 150 or 200 videos there for you for free under collections. If you would like to be a ranch hand to get involved with us, there's over 700 videos. And you can become a ranch hand for $5 a month and see all 700. And you get a good taste on the other ones. So go ahead and go to this, and you can pick us up there. As soon as you go to the front page, just scroll down and you'll see this video. All right, let's keep going. We're going to talk about transmissions. And there's a whole bunch of parts in a transmission. Whole bunch of parts. Bunch of them. But unfortunately, unless you're a serious mechanic and you do a lot of work, a transmission is a black box. I know you hate to hear that. And there's a couple of guys saying, "Oh, I can fix that, no problem." Listen, the way you fix stuff, the way you fix a transmission is by repetition. If you're going to rebuild a transmission, the first one's going to come out like garbage. It's through repetition. And when you have your transmission built, or you need to have it built, you need to find somebody that's done it before. "Oh yeah, I can fix it." "Oh, no." You need to find somebody that has done a 425 automatic transmission, because this transmission is really weird. It's turned sideways. They take the back part of the transmission and put it on the side of it. Now, somebody says, "Well, it's just a 400 with the sprag gears in backwards." Yeah, but do you know how to put the sprag gears in backwards? Did he know how to do it? You need somebody who knows the 425 automatic. Okay. Well, we say it's a black box. There are some things to do, but going this far, you can't do that. You have to pull the transmission out. What you can do are a couple of things on a transmission, and we're going to go over them. You've got the governor, modulator, the pan that's down here, and some other things. We're going to point out some things about the transmission. So let's get started. First thing, and you've heard about this, is called the governor. That's right, the governor. Now, this is the only transmission GM ever made that has an external governor. The 400 had one inside. But what a governor does, you've watched an old hit and miss motor. It's got this little thing that spins, and the faster it goes, it spins out further, right? That's a governor. And that's what this thing does. Inside that little can, is a little spinny doodle, and it spins out and it goes up like this. And as it goes up, it pulls a pin up. Let me show you about, well, no, it's not in here. Pulls the pin up, and it shifts from first, second, third. It tells it when to shift. It governs when to shift. Now, if the governor fails, the governor has a sacrificial plastic gear on it, because if something happens to it, it won't tear up the rest of the transmission. It tears out this plastic gear right here. All right. That gear is replaceable, but when it goes out, now remember, it's plastic and the thing's 50 years old, so you know what's going to happen. When it fails, you'll know it fails. Number one, your speedometer won't work. Number two, you won't get out of first gear. You'll have first and reverse, and baby, that's it. And your speedometer doesn't work. So this governor gear right here is very, very important. What do you say? You always need to travel with one of those governor gears. And if you don't have one, I'm sure you can get with just Serum or Applied and pick one up. But I would always carry a governor gear. Next thing is this coming off the side of this where the governor is put in there is a speedometer gear. Now, if you got 3 gears, but the speedometer doesn't work, it might be this gear right here. Now there's an O-ring on this gear. Why? Because oil's up in there, and you might have a leak out of that O-ring seal right there. All right. Now we talked about the governor. Here's your governor, it sticks in the hole, and here's the plastic gear right here. So if you have a set of headers, this governor gear, you look down in there, you can barely see it. And you're going to have to at least take the 5 bolts off of the motor, and take a pry bar and pull it back and pull that governor gear out. If you still have manifolds, you can look down there and it's got a cutout and you can lift it up. Well, you lift it up, there's a bail wire at the top. You pop that off. It'll come up pretty easy, then it'll stop. Okay? You move it around a little bit, that gets the gear in place, and you pull the whole thing out. And when you do, the gear's on the bottom, and you look at it. Now, if that gear is stripped out, Bob's your uncle. What you've got to do is the plastic gear. There's a drift pin that holds it in. You pop the drift pin out. You pull the plastic out. The kit, call it a kit, that has the new gear in it, will come with 2 finish nails. You go, what happened there? Somebody put a finish nail in it. No, the finish nail is to knock the drift pin out. Perfect size for it. Knocks the drift pin out. Then the second nail, I guess they figure if you bend it, it would be a problem. The second nail, you actually, well, if you have a drill, you're much better off drilling a hole. But you could, if you're on the side of the road and nothing's happening, you could take that second nail and nail it in there and then pull it out and then shove the drift pin back in. I would much rather put a drill, okay? But that's what's in the kit. So when you get it and you wonder why there are 2 finish nails in there, there you go. You set it on a block like this, and there's the drift pin right there. All right. Next thing is the transmission pan, the pan that's at the bottom of the transmission. Now, this is something you can do. There are a bunch of screws around this. It's a stamped steel pan. There's a bunch of screws around it. You pull those off, and about that time, all the fluid's going to pour out, so have a pan under it. You say, well, why don't they put a bolt there and drain it out? Well, yeah, they could, but when you take the fluid out, you're going to pull the filter out anyway. To pull the filter out, you got to blow up the pan. So they probably said, forget that. So put a big tray under it, and you're going to lose about 5 quarts. You've got about 12 quarts of fluid in your transmission. You're going to see about 6 quarts of it or so are going to stay in the torque converter. There's a check valve that holds it in there. So it's going to hold about 6 quarts, and you're going to drop about 5 or 6 quarts out of the pan. Cool. Pull that off, clean it all off. Now, the pan has all these bolts around it. You want to look at the pan, and where the bolt goes through, you might find that it's got a mushroom. It's been bent down. Okay? You want to take a hammer, put it on a flat surface, and pound those back off flat. Okay, real important to do that because the gasket on here would allow it to push in a little bit. Okay. Now there are 2 types of gaskets. There's a rubber gasket and a cork gasket. This is like saying what kind of oil do you want. Some people say the cork works better. I usually use the rubber gasket. But the cork gasket seems to work well. You want to use Permatex Aircraft Forma gasket. Comes in a bottle with a dollop on the top of it. You want to cover both sides of that gasket and put it up in there and wait 24 hours. Let it cure up. Now here's the filter right here. And when you pull the filter is literally sitting on the pan. When you pull the pan out, this filter drops down and it goes up in the transmission in this tube. Now, if you look in the tube, it's got a seal on it. Okay? Well, that's all well and good, but think about this. That filter is sitting on the pan. It's got one seal up here. So it can wobble a little bit. Okay? What you want to do is when you take the old filter out, pull the seal off of it. Take the new filter, put the new seal on, and put the old seal on it too. Because if you got two here, it won't wobble as much. You won't have, if you have any blow by, you've got two seals in there. Okay? So do that. Make sense? When you put it back up in there, it's going to be all glued in. You're going to wait 24 hours. Okay? Now remember, you're going to have some fluid in there. Now, that check valve that's on the torque converter, it's a steel check valve. So it leaks a little bit. Okay? That's why if you park the coach for a long time in one spot, you'll have a leak. But if you drive it every day or every week, you never have a leak. That's it. All right, so you're going to have it all together. You're going to pour in 4 quarts of fluid, fire it up, check your fluid, and then add a quart at a time until you get it up to the stick. Now, some people say you check it with the engine not on. I don't know. My granddaddy told me, turn the motor on, let it warm up. And it does say cold or hot, but let it warm up, let the fluid get up to the speed, and then check the fluid with it warm. Add fluid until you get up into the stick. Should be about 12 quarts, but when you get finished. But you're gonna be adding about 5 or 6 quarts. All right. Next thing is the modulator. Modulator valve is on the passenger side of the transmission. And what it does, it hooks up the engine vacuum right here. Now, if your modulator valve has the vacuum line coming into the side of it, that is an original modulator valve. I mean, think about that a minute. A 50-year-old modulator valve. Now, the modulator valve tells the transmission, it watches vacuum. Now, the governor's over here watching speed, and the modulator's watching vacuum. That's how it shifts. Now, if your modulator did not work at all, this thing would force shift at 35 miles an hour from first to second. Wham, bam, right? And then it would go about 55 miles an hour, we'd shift into third. That way you know your modulator is not getting vacuum or is not any good. So what you do is there is a steel line on the passenger side of the engine that goes down the back of the motor, and it's got a little rubber tube, about a 4-inch tube, and it's hooked into the modulator. You can stick your hand down there, follow the steel line, and find that rubber hose and see if that thing's still on there. Because what happens over 50 years, it gets oil soaked and just falls off. Guy called me last week, had the same problem. He thought he was going to pull it out. It didn't. So let's check this out. This is part of the reason I'm doing this video, because it helped him, and I know it may help you too. So he reached down there, ran his hand down, felt the tube, and it had a crack in it. Okay? What was happening was he said I didn't have first. I only had first. I said, well, do this. Go out on the road and rev it, let it go up. And about 35 to shift to second. So I said, all right, let's check the vacuum going to the modulator valve. And that little rubber tube had a crack in it. Usually it's oil soaked and falls off, or is real loose and doesn't get enough vacuum to the modulator, so it doesn't know when to shift. So check that little rubber hose on your modulator valve. If you didn't know about it, go check it. Because it might be very, very loose, might just be barely hanging on. Now, if your modulator has the tube come into the side, like I said, that's an original modulator valve. I would change it. The new modulator valve kind of looks like the diaphragm on your distributor. It's just a diaphragm. But the nice thing about most of the new ones, you can stick an Allen wrench or diddle stick in it and move and it's got a screw inside, and you can change the shift rate. I would put a new one in anyway. So what that thing is doing is the vacuum is pushing this piston in and out. Now there's another thing right next to the modulator valve. It's your kickdown switch. And there's a single wire coming down and plugged into the kickdown switch. All right, now think about this a minute. You're a transmission, and you're running along and drive, having a good time. And some guy, and he's got it, he stomps it to the floor. Now remember, you're 12,000 pounds. He stomps that thing to the floor, and you're told to shift to second. What? Boom. That's really hard on the transmission. You don't want to do that. So my personal biased subjective opinion is to take that wire, take it off. You don't want to kick that thing down with your foot. If you want to go from drive to second, you've got a shifter there, and you can bring it down. And basically what you're going to use it for, if you're going up a hill and you're running along 55, 60 miles an hour, 70, whatever, and with your foot normally on the gas, when it gets down to 40 miles an hour, manually pull it down into second. Run it in second, going up that hill. Then when the speed gets up to 55 or 60, wherever you're at again, drop it back into drive. Manually use it. Don't use that kickdown switch. That transmission was used in cars, and that was only 4,000 or 5,000 pounds. Well, you've hammered that thing with 12,000 pounds. You're going to rip the transmission up. Don't use the kickdown switch. Matter of fact, if there's on your gas pedal inside, there's a wire. There's two wires on a white switch on your gas pedal. You could take it off there if you want, but you don't want to use that automatic kickdown switch. All right, so now we've all got a new modulator valve, right? The shifter cable. Get in there, you fire it up. Won't go into gear. Well, up at the top, coming off the steering column, right here, you see it right here, that's the shifter cable. Now, if you follow the shifter cable down the side of the transmission, this goes into the transmission, and here's the shifter cable connected to this arm right here. Lift your engine cover up, go down to the shifter cable, and disconnect it. There's a cotter pin and a post. Take that, disconnect that, and now try to shift it. If it's still hung up, that means your cable's bad. Okay. Now you can go up to that rubber grommet at the top and start dripping fluid down that thing, penetrating oil, PB blaster, Croil oil, or whatever you feel your liquid is, and maybe loosen it up. Just keep working it and pouring down there. Or you could take it off and hang it and drip it and wait a couple of days. Or you can go buy a new one. Jeff Serum in Okeechobee has a new cable, right? But if it works, then go down and turn that arm going in the transmission. That should move freely. If that doesn't move freely, bummer. That's a problem. Like I said, that transmission is kind of a black box. We can affect things that I'm telling you about on the outside of it. But when it comes to that inside of that thing, now remember all those parts? Not very much you can do in there. So this shifter cable, and they freeze up. I mean, how many years that thing sits? Wouldn't even hurt at all to pull back that rubber grommet and put some penetrate oil down that now. I mean, did you ever know about this? Huh? Well, no. Well, it's 50 years old. Put some oil down it. Your transmission lines, your cooler lines, up in your radiator is your transmission cooler. All right, right here, and there's two lines. right here. Now you look down at if you lift your engine cover and look down, there's one in the inside of the transmission, one on the outside of the transmission. The one on the outside of the transmission is the output of the fluid going to the cooler. The other one, of course, is the one coming back. Look at these lines. Be sure they're not bent up or crushed or anything like that, because you need a good flow to it. Now, if you get a new transmission, or say your transmission blew up or something, it's really hard to clean these coolers out. So you really need to use an external cooler. Most transmission shops will tell you that you need to buy a new big external cooler to put on there, and I would totally recommend that. If you want a transmission temperature gauge, where do you put it? Well, you don't want to read the fluid temperature that's in the pan, because that's coming back from the cooler and going in the pan, waiting to go up into the transmission. What you want to read is the fluid coming right out of the transmission that just did all the work. It's hot to go, and that's the temperature you want. Make sense? So on the output line of this transmission, you put a T, and then you put your sender on that T, because you'll be reading the output of the transmission, which tells you the work the transmission's doing. That makes sense? I know the Ragusa pan has a fitting to put one in there, but the problem is that, like I said, that just tells you the fluid when it's cool. It tells you its coolest state. Use that fitting on the Ragusa pan to drain it. That way you don't make such a mess when you change it. Oh. This is the thing that makes our 425 transmission work. This is the constant velocity chain on the back of the transmission that holds, coming out of one, comes out of the torque converter and goes into the transmission. Now, this chain is really, really important. That's what makes it work. They cut it and moved it over here and put a chain on it. Well, on a car, those chains, they almost never go bad. You see how thick it is. On the motorhome, though, sometimes when they rebuild the transmission, this chain has been stretched and it's got play in it. And I have seen this chain jump. I mean, it's terrible. When they rebuild it, be sure to ask the builder, was the chain in good shape? Hard to find chains. Okay, so you want to know that you've got a good chain. He's going to measure the tolerance. I think it's 1/8 of an inch play, or it might even be less than that. But you want to know what your tolerance is on that chain. So this transmission is really, really important, wouldn't you say? If you find your motor is bad, use the motor problem as an indicator that you need to change the transmission or have it rebuilt too. Because the transmission works perfect until it don't, and that'll be in the worst possible situation. So your engine, on the other hand, it'll run great, then it'll start acting up or something. Hopefully it won't fail in the middle of nowhere, but hopefully you'll listen to the transmission, to the engine, and you notice it's starting to get old. You do some compression test, you find it's old, and you decided to rebuild it. All right, do the transmission too. If you don't know the age of your transmission, now if it's just been rebuilt, that's fine. But if you don't know the age of the transmission, build it too. Okay, there's some special places around the country that work on these transmissions. If you have a problem, give me a call. Let's talk about it. Say where you're at, how to get it built. Make sense? All right, guys. Well, look, this is running a little bit long, but I think this is important information for you, and we'll be on Patreon. One of the things that Patreon has is all the videos, but the other thing is, if you have a problem or anything, just give me a call. That's what it's for. My number is, now, don't call at 2 o'clock in the morning about prices on gas in Topeka. But if it's important, call when you need to. Rest of the time, make it during the day. Is that okay with you? All right. Look, thanks a lot. If you feel this is any good, become a ranch hand, give me a call. We'll see you next time.